The movie begins in the United States with a thief named Harry sitting at home holding a phone, hesitating to call his girlfriend Molly. At the same time, we see Detective Howard at a conference when his secretary approaches with new information regarding Harry's case. He immediately leaves the conference and heads to his car. Meanwhile, Harry meets Molly at a restaurant, looking anxious. At the same time, Howard meets a federal officer and boards a helicopter carrying files with him. As the wind blows, some papers fly away, including a picture of Harry, who is wanted by the authorities. Harry sits with Molly and confesses that he's not the man she thinks he is, beginning to recount what happened in 1972. We see Harry in that time driving recklessly down the road, lighting a cigarette that falls on him and burns him, forcing him to stop just in front of a police car, nearly hitting it. The officer steps out and tells Harry he's racked up several violations, including speeding the week before. When asked for his name, Harry claims to be Steve McQueen, but when the officer checks his license, he discovers that Harry is his real name. At this moment, we learn that Harry changed his name to Steve McQueen because the federal authorities had been searching for him for 8 years due to a bank heist in California, one of the largest in America at the time. We see a man named Enzo meeting with his friend Polly to visit a man named Bobby, who offers to help them rob a bank containing a huge sum of money, around $30 million. This money belongs to President Nixon, who illegally obtained it through stolen donations and placed it in the largest bank in California. Enzo is enthusiastic about the heist and plans to steal the money with Polly since no one could reclaim the money as it was illegal. Although Polly is hesitant, Enzo insists on carrying out the operation. At that time, Harry and his brother Tommy, who had just returned from Vietnam, were working at their uncle Enzo's factory. Tommy was careless at work, and Harry tried to convince him to work harder so their uncle would allow them to stay employed. At this moment, the secretary calls Harry and tells him that Enzo wants to see him. Harry goes to Enzo's office, where he shows him pictures of an alarm bell inside the California bank. Enzo tells him it's the first time he's seen such an alarm and asks Harry to search for it everywhere and bring it back to him if he finds it. Harry understands what Enzo means and smiles. He then attempts to steal the alarm from a nearby building, but the alarm makes a loud noise that Harry cannot control. He jumps into his car and drives to his uncle's place, but a police car spots him and gives chase. Harry manages to evade them and arrives at Enzo's place, where the alarm's noise is unbearable, causing Harry to collapse. Enzo and his men manage to silence the alarm. Enzo instructs Harry to burn the car, but Harry explains that he had stolen it just a week ago and hadn't enjoyed it yet. Enzo makes it clear that no trace can be left behind, and they must burn the car after every job. Reluctantly, Harry burns the car. Enzo, impressed by Harry's boldness, tells him that from now on, he will work with him. Harry, excited, embraces him and asks if his brother Tommy can join too, but Enzo advises him not to rush things. Harry assembles the team, which includes Polly and Ray, and they begin planning how to disable the alarm system. Harry explains that when Tommy returned from Vietnam, he introduced him to a guy who worked in the surfboard industry and used a particular substance to spray the boards, which made them solid afterward. Harry suggests spraying this substance into the alarm's wires to make them solid and mute the sound. Enzo is impressed and agrees to the plan. The next day, the entire team, along with Tommy, heads to California, where they rent a house near the bank. Enzo devises a plan to rob the bank, where they will cut the alarm wires and sensors, while Polly drills into the vault ceiling to place dynamite. Tommy will pack the dynamite inside a fertilizer bag to muffle the explosion. The team goes to a nearby casino to scout the area, and Enzo tells them that the casino noise will help cover up the sound of the explosion during the heist. Molly is shocked by everything she's hearing and recalls her memories with Harry, remembering the first time she met him at the casino where he worked. At that moment, she was crying after running away from her husband's funeral, where she discovered that he had been cheating on her with her best friend. After his death, she returned to live with her family and recently learned that he died in a car accident. At the time, Harry offered her a drink and tried to comfort her. While they were talking, Molly noticed the police entering the casino and hid. The police asked Harry about Molly, but he denied seeing her. After they left, Harry gave Molly the keys to his car and house, telling her to wait for him there. But when Harry returned home that evening, she was gone. He searched for her and finally found her sitting alone in the abandoned theater below his home. He sat with her and they began talking. She told him she wanted to be with him, but only if he promised never to lie to her. Harry continues recounting the heist they carried out. We see Enzo and his gang on their way to rob the bank at night. They climb onto the bank's roof using a ladder. Polly begins drilling a hole under the vault, while Tommy gathers fertilizer to place the dynamite inside. Ray stands guard to secure the area, and Enzo and Harry disable the alarm systems. They successfully drill the hole and detonate the dynamite, but the explosion is incredibly loud, prompting a police car to arrive, with officers stepping out to investigate. Harry instructs the team to remain still as he has a plan. He goes to the nearby casino and starts a fight with a young man, distracting the police, who arrest the man and leave. Harry returns to the team, and Enzo, along with the rest of the crew, descends into the bank through the hole they created in the vault's ceiling. Inside, they find numerous safes filled with cash, gold bars, and diamonds. They load everything they can find into bags and successfully steal over $4 million in the operation. However, they fail to locate President Nixon's money. Enzo insists on returning on Saturday or Sunday to search for Nixon's funds, believing Nixon is a criminal who deserves to be punished for the crimes he committed, including theft and murder against the American people. Before leaving, Enzo places a broken piece of a mirror on the bank's roof, pointing it toward the house they are staying in so he can monitor the situation in the coming days. The next day, at the California Police Department, Detective Howard is talking with Detective Sharon, who seems to have a crush on him. She invites him to go to the movies to watch The Godfather. At that moment, a woman interrupts them, telling Howard that the deputy director urgently needs him. Howard discovers that the deputy director has just arrived from Washington, accompanied by a large team of investigators. Howard meets with the deputy director, who informs him that a bank robbery took place last night. 456 safety deposit boxes were broken into, with gold and money stolen. However, some boxes still contained valuables, suggesting that the robbers were searching for something specific and didn't find it. The deputy director tells Howard that 100 federal agents are coming to investigate the case, following orders from the White House, as the case involves someone important in America. After the deputy director leaves, Sharon tells Howard that the president spends his vacations in a place called San Clemente, which is near the bank. Howard suspects that the president might be linked to the robbery, especially since the last time 100 federal agents were dispatched was to investigate the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Molly is in shock after hearing all this from Harry, and she recalls the time she introduced Harry to her family. Harry discovered that her entire family were police officers, and the police who questioned him at the casino were her relatives. Molly tells her mother that she loves Harry and wants to marry him, to which her mother agrees. After spending the day with her family, Harry and Molly ride away on a motorcycle. At that moment, Harry asks Molly why she didn't tell him her father was the police chief. She replies that if she had told him, he might have been scared and run away. Harry continues his story with Molly, telling her what happened after the bank robbery. Rumors began to spread that the White House was involved in the bank heist, but the media denied it. During this time, Enzo was monitoring the mirror he placed on the bank's roof using his binoculars. Tommy asks him about the importance of the mirror, and Enzo explains that if he sees his reflection in the mirror, it means the police haven't discovered the hole they drilled. However, if the reflection disappears, it means the police have found the hole and they won't be able to continue with their plan. We then see Molly and Harry talking in the restaurant, reminiscing about the time when Molly renovated the old cinema beneath Harry's house. At that time, Harry was overwhelmed with joy and told her he wished he had met her earlier, though she didn't understand what he meant. Harry continues talking with her in the restaurant, explaining that they returned to the bank again on Saturday, and at that moment, his life began to unravel. When they entered the bank, everyone was searching for the money while Ray stood outside to keep watch. Ray calls Enzo, informing him that an unknown car is parked right in front of the bank. Enzo goes to check it out and suspects that a police officer is inside the car. Ray wants to kill the officer, but Enzo stops him, saying they are not murderers and that they are only there to rob the bank and leave peacefully. Despite this, Ray insists on his stance, and Enzo agrees to let him wound the officer without killing him. They see the officer get out of the car, and it turns out to be Detective Howard, who opens his car's trunk, pulls out a small box containing chewing gum, and starts chewing. Ray watches him, ready to shoot if necessary. Enzo informs the rest of the team that if they hear gunfire from Ray, they should flee immediately. Harry suggests they escape right then, but Enzo angrily orders him to follow instructions and not offer his opinion again. At that moment, another car arrives near the bank, and out come children from a soccer team. Howard takes his son and leaves. The gang returns to the bank for the third time the next day, with all the members inside the bank except for Ray, who stands on the roof monitoring the situation and communicating with them via radio. The gang continues searching for the $30 million but can't find it. They realize that the money has been moved elsewhere. Paulie suggests ending the operation and leaving the bank, but Enzo gets angry and insists that no one commands his men except him. Paulie understands that they've done everything they could to find the money, but it's time to leave since the police could strike at any moment. Eventually, Enzo agrees, and they exit the bank. After selling the gold bars, the total amount stolen reached $12 million. Enzo calls Harry over and gives him and his brother their share of the heist, only $200,000. Harry notices that his brother Tommy is holding a folder containing baseball cards, and when he asks where he got it, he discovers that Tommy stole it from the bank. On the same day, Sharon informs Detective Howard that she found information on a bank client named Colson, who is a special advisor to the President of the United States. Meanwhile, Harry and Tommy are in a taxi heading back home. Harry tells his brother that they won't work for their uncle anymore and will think of something else to do. Tommy is flipping through the baseball card folder and comes across a card with the name Colson, along with a phone number written on the back. He dismisses the card and leaves it in the taxi. The next day, Howard speaks with his boss, who tells him that he spoke with Colson and discovered that what he had in the safety deposit box was a baseball card collection valued between $200,000 to $300,000. However, Howard is skeptical and wants to investigate further, but his boss refuses to allow it. On the same day, Howard and Sharon go to the roof of the bank and notice the small mirror. Howard orders Sharon to search every house the mirror was pointing toward and find out details about the residents living near the bank. They discover that the mirror was aimed at a particular house, which the gang had been using, and the house was rented under the alias Steve McQueen. Sharon enters the kitchen and finds that the gang left food in the dishes, so she decides to conduct DNA tests to identify the robbers. The next day, they manage to identify 3 suspects out of the 5: Enzo, Paulie, and Ray. However, there are still 2 unknown fingerprints yet to be identified. The department head speaks with Howard and Sharon, commending their efforts in the investigation, and offers Howard a transfer to Washington, saying he needs him there. Howard agrees, and his boss tells him that he has 3 weeks to wrap up the case before moving with his family to Washington. Later, Sharon tells Howard that she was able to identify the last 2 fingerprints. The first belongs to Tommy, who served in Vietnam, and they traced his prints through the U.S. Army database. The second belongs to Harry, but she couldn't find any information about him. She also informs Howard that she found the taxi they used to escape, which was registered under the name Steve McQueen, and that Tommy and Harry fled in the taxi. Sharon hands over all the information to Howard, who goes to search the taxi himself and finds the card Tommy left behind, which belongs to advisor Colson, along with a collection of baseball cards. The next day, Howard obtains more information about Steve McQueen and discovers that he served a year in prison and committed 41 traffic violations. On the same day, federal police moved to arrest Enzo, Ray, and Paulie. At that time, Tommy is sitting in front of his house playing with baseball cards while Harry steps out to buy some groceries. Harry asks if Tommy wants anything from the store, but Tommy doesn't ask for anything specific. Harry tells him that he loves him, sensing that his brother might be saying goodbye for the last time. Harry gets into his car and drives off. Shortly afterward, the police arrive and arrest Tommy. Harry, seeing his brother being taken away from a distance, is unable to turn back. Tommy smiles from afar, while Harry cries, unable to save his brother. This was the last time Harry saw his brother, as Harry fled after that and was never caught. Harry talks to Molly in the restaurant and tells her that he's decided to call her father to turn himself in because he's tired of running. But Molly grabs his hand and leads him out of the restaurant, telling him that they'll escape together to Canada on her motorcycle. At that moment, federal police cars surround them from all sides, and officers step out, ordering Harry to surrender. Harry promises Molly that he will return to her after his time in prison, and she tells him that she will wait for him. Howard steps out of the police car and arrests Harry. Harry is sentenced to 7 years in prison, but his sentence is reduced to 3 years for good behavior.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.